Ready? 3, 3, 2, 1.
ಆತ್ಮೀಯರೇ, ಈ ದಿನ DSCRT ಹಾಗೂ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಸಹಯೋಗದೊಂದಿಗೆ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆಯೋಜಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ DSCRTಯ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೋಪಾಲಕೃಷ್ಣ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಸಹ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀ ನಂಜಯ್ಯ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಟಿ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಉಪನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀ ಫಣೀಶ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಮೂಲಕವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪದ್ಮಶ್ರೀ ಹಿರಿಯ ಸಹಾಯಕ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು DSCRT ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮೇಡಮ್ ತಿತಿಕ್ಷಾ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆನಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಅರುಣ್ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆನಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಉದ್ದೇಶಗಳು ಹಾಗೂ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು, ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಟಾಕ್ ವಿಚಾರವಾಗಿ ಏನು ವೆಬಿನಾರನ್ನು ಈ ದಿನ ಆಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವೀಕೃತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜ್ಯದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳ ಹಾಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಾಲೂಕುಗಳಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ BRC ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ದಿನ ಏನು ಸ್ವೀಕೃತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿ ವರ್ಗದವರಿಗೆ ಹಾಗೂ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈ ಸ್ವಾಗತ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ನಂತರ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕುರಿತು ಒಂದೆರಡು ನಿಮಿಷ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯ ಸಹಾಯಕ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದಂತಹ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಪದ್ಮಶ್ರೀ ಅವರು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕುರಿತು ಮಾತನಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to work with British Council and to organize this particular webinar series where teacher talk plays an important role because without teachers talk and the communication that is established between the teacher and the students, language development becomes very, very difficult. And so this happens to be an innovative, initiative where British Council has joined hands with Department of School Education and Literacy. And they are really a team of people from British Council who have constantly been engaged in conducting various activities, and they have identified priority areas of which teacher talk becomes a major aspect in order to begin the language development, especially the way in which teacher communicates with the children in the classroom, in the ecosystem of schooling, and accordingly facilitate the whole nuances of language acquisition. So in that context, this particular webinar series has been organized, and they're going to provide inputs on various activities that can be conducted within the centers, like all the teachers who have registered for this particular program have assembled in the BRC centers, and there happens to be those DRTs as well as the BRTs who are going to facilitate this particular program in the receiving centers. And then according to the instructions given by the British Council, you are supposed to carry out various language related, it should happen in the form of a workshop, which is completely activity based. And we initially thought of having this online in the places wherever the teachers are, but then it would not be as effective as we thought, because coming to the BRC center and assembling in the groups and then working out the strategies, through which the teacher talk concepts can be internalized and then start working out, and then you in turn develop a lot of insights in order to how to improve the teacher talk in the language classroom. In the earlier stages, without language acquisition, without efforts towards language development, we cannot even ensure that the transaction or the pedagogical aspects of various other disciplines can be taken up. So here we are very, very fortunate to have British Council team to initiate this. And in turn, you know, at the district level, the DRTs and the BRTs can initiate their own programs. But I request all the teachers who are there in the receiving centers to pay complete attention and then carry out, understand, and then because it's one-way communication here. But as per the instructions given by the British Council, you can conduct the activities within the receiving centers. And then I request all of you to actively participate, follow the instructions thoroughly, and conduct the activity in the form of workshop in the BRC centers and the receiving centers wherever you are. So further, maybe in future, the different aspects, apart from teacher talk, maybe initiatives pertaining to the phonetics, and then initiatives pertaining to writing, or maybe story narration, because fluency aspects are, you know, a very, very gray area, because our children come from various language backgrounds, and hence maybe the content and language integrated learning concepts will also be taken up in future. So this is the first of its kind of efforts where British Council has made various efforts in other states, but in our state this has been initiated right now. So feel free to give the proper feedback, and then accordingly make use of this particular program very effectively. Come out with suggestions, and then so that the grassroots absorption happens better. And then language classes should be in specific language. Say, for example, English language sessions should happen in English language only, not the other languages, because using monolingual approach has its own benefits, but then we have adopted multilingual settings, and bilingual sessions are also there. And so try to get as much as insights as possible, and then try to apply it in the classrooms. So with this, I thank British Council, the team, Arun sir and Trisha, to have partnered with us. And then I hope this will be a grand success, where teachers will be completely involved, and then try and experiment in the classroom and see the results. Thank you.
Thank you. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪದ್ಮಶ್ರೀ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ರೂಪುರೇಷೆಗಳು, ಹಾಗೆ ವೆಬಿನಾರನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಆಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಹೇಗೆ ತೊಡಗಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸಿದರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಇಲಾಖೆ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಂತರ ನಮ್ಮ ಟಿ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಉಪನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದಂಥ ಶ್ರೀ ಫಣೀಶ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು, ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರನ್ನು ಕುರಿತು ಒಂದೆರಡು ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಹಂಚ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಸರ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಿರೋವಂಥದ್ದು ತುಂಬ ಸಂತೋಷ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಈಗ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ನಾವು ಹಾಕಿರೋವಂಥದ್ದು ಟೀಚರ್ಸನ್ನು MTIP, ನಲಿಕಲಿ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷು, ಜೊತೆಗೆ KPS ಈ ಥರದ ಶಾಲೆಗಳನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇದಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಜನರಲ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರು ಇದನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಚಾನಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ತಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದಕ್ಕಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ತಮಗೆ ಏನೇ ಡೌಟ್ ಬಂದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಚಾಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾವಾಗ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ತಮಗೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಡೌಟ್ಗಳನ್ನು, ಈಗ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾತಾಡಿದರೆ ಅನುಕೂಲ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಮಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗೊಂದಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ತಮಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ತಾವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇನೆ ಹೇಳುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನನೂ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು, ಆ ತೊಂದರೆ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಹೆಸಿಟೇಷನ್ ಬೇಡ. ಆ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಏನು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾಷೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ನು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ನಾವು ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಸಂಭಾಷಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ, ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ನಮ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಈಗ ನಾವು ಬಂದಿರೋದೇ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮೀಡಿಯಮು, ಆದರೆ ಈಗ ಮುಂದೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಈ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣನೇ ಹಿಂಜರಿತಾ ಇರೋವಂಥದ್ದು ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಈ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೊಂದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅತ್ಯುತ್ತಮವಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸಹಾಯ ಆದಂಗಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಗತಿಗೆ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಕಾರಣರಾಗಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ 2 ಮಾತು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ, ಮಾನ್ಯ ಉಪನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಿಗೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಲಿಂಕನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ರಿಸೀವ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರು ಕೂಡ ಆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಮೂಲಕ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೆ BRC ಕೇಂದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ BRT ತಂಡದ ಸದಸ್ಯರೇನಿದ್ದೀರಿ, ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿವಸ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಜರಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರ ಹಾಜರಾತಿಯನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಶೀಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ತಾವು ಸಿದ್ಧಪಡಿಸಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನಂತರ ಅದನ್ನು ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯ ನಿಮ್ಮ ನೋಡಲ್ ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ DRT ಟೀಮ್ ಅಥವಾ MT ನೋಡಲ್ ಆಫೀಸರ್ಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಓಕೆ, ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ತಿತಿಕ್ಷಾ ಅವರು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಈಗ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಮುಂದುವರ್ಸಿನಿ.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all our participants who are joining in on today's webinar. We are from British Council and we welcome you to today's webinar with Teaching English titled How to Use Teacher Talk as an Effective Learning Strategy. This is in collaboration with Department of State Educational Research and Training, DSCRT, Karnataka. Along with me, I have my colleague here, Arun, who will of course be sharing with us the overview of today's webinar. Over to you, Arun.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ತಿತಿಕ್ಷಾ. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ತುಂಬ ಸಂತೋಷ ಇವತ್ತು ಸೇರಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ತುಂಬ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಸೆಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು reflect and analyze on your teaching. I'll take you through some of the objectives. ಇದು ಸೆಷನ್ ಆದ ನಂತರ, ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಆದ ನಂತರ ನೀವು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಒಂದು 5 minutes ಇದೆ, ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಾವು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸೆಷನ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಲುಕ್ ಆಟ್ ಟೀಚರ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಇನ್ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಟು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಇಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಇದು ಟೀಚರ್ ಟಾಕ್ನ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಹೌ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಅನ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಟೂಲ್ ಇನ್ ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಲಿಸ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್. ಇದನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸೋದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್. ಸಮರ್ಥವಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಣಾಮಕಾರಿಯಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಓನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಕಾಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್. At the end, we will show you how to access free resources to develop listening and speaking in your own context. Nim sandarbhanalli what are the resources you can use. ನೀವು ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ. at the end I will answer in Kannada and ma'am will answer in English. So thank you again for coming to this webinar. So in today's session we're going to talk about teacher talk. So here is one example of teacher talk. So the teacher, as you can see on the left, says, "What new words did we learn yesterday?" And the students answer and they say the words were. And then the teacher says, "Well done. The new words were." This might be something that is very familiar to you in your context. This is something probably you use every day in your context, this kind of interaction. But we'll come back to it in a few minutes and I'll tell you a few things about how to use it effectively, this kind of talk. Here is another example. ಎರಡನೇ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ. How was your teacher ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ, how was your weekend ಅಂತ. And the student says, "It was fun. I went to the park." And the teacher says, "Sounds great." So there are two interactions. Titiksha, which one of these do you think is a good example of teacher talk?
Maybe the first picture where the teacher asks them about the words that they had learned yesterday.
And what about the second picture?
Is that teacher talk too?
Good question, Titiksha. Very good question. In fact, I'm going to tell you now what teacher talk is. We will dive into a bit of research to discuss what teacher talk andre yenadu. What is the meaning of teacher talk? So everything that a teacher says in the class falls under the general umbrella of teacher talk. But as we looked at in the last slide, it's not just the teacher talking, it's the improvement of the quality of learning of the students. So we looked at, if you remember, hindiನ slide nalli now we saw an example, how was your weekend. So that is something that happens in the classroom, but the teacher is asking about something outside the classroom, and by that the learner's the quality of his learning improves because he learns to talk in his own personal context and something outside the classroom. So the teacher has used that sentence very effectively to enhance the quality of learning. So that's one definition of teacher talk. We looked at a previous example where the teacher was asking about words, the teacher was asking about what words you learned. Now everything, as I said, is teacher talk. It's the content of what the teacher says. It's the context of what the teacher says. If you remember, if I had said, "How was your weekend? Well done," that wouldn't have sounded good. So the tone is important. And if you remember in the last two slides, we talked about two kinds of words. The teacher said, "Well done." She also said, "Sounds great." So that teacher talk is related to vocabulary. So it's also the vocabulary, creating a positive, caring and interactive conversation. Interactive in the sense of ಅವರು ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಅವರು ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. So interactive conversation which includes everyone. It's called inclusive practice and it increases the quality and the success of the learning. So Titiksha will now take you through various points at which we use teacher talk and the various ways in which we use teacher talk in the classroom. Over to you, Titiksha.
Thanks, Arun. So now that Arun has shared with us what teacher talk is, let's look at some effective ways in which the teachers can introduce teacher talk in their classroom. The first one is by motivating and encouraging your students, by giving them feedback, by checking their understanding, by using warm-up chats, and by giving clear and simple directions for activities in the classroom. As teachers, many of us very often use motivating and encouraging language in our classroom so that we can create a positive learning environment. We also, as teachers, often give constructive, and relevant feedback so that our students can learn the language from that. Today, we would also like to share with you some other ways in which you can make your teacher talk effective. But before we do that, let's look at some examples of encouraging and positive feedback that teachers often use in the classroom. So if you have students like Divya, who gives you correct answer to your question, you can always encourage her by saying, "Excellent, Divya." If you have a student like Samuel, who cleans your blackboard or does some other work in the classroom for you, you can thank him by saying, "Thanks for helping me, Samuel." If you have students like Deepika and Sunil, who make a very nice poster or maybe a nice chart, then you can encourage them by giving them the feedback, "Very good," or "Well done, Deepika and Sunil." Remember, the phrases or the sentences that you use to give your feedback can encourage your students to use them as well. Your feedback can therefore act as sample sentences that students can pick up so that they can improve their own vocabulary and grammar structures. Now, to understand a little bit more about the next effective way of teacher talk, I'll hand over to you, Arun.
Thank you again, Titiksha. So we looked at many things right at the start. Titiksha showed you many things, motivating and encouraging, feedback, and now we're going to look at checking understanding. So this is something we do regularly in class, but how do we make teacher talk and how do we use teacher talk effectively? Let's look at two examples. So on the left, ಎಡಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ಒಂದು ಟೀಚರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಗೆ, ಟೇಕ್ ಔಟ್ ಯೋರ್ books which we had used last time. Now the students are saying, "Which book, ma'am? When?" So that is not a very good example. That's not very good teacher talk. This is something we might use all the time, but we don't know whether it's effective or not. So what is effective in that case? So how do we use teacher talk to enhance the quality of the learning of the student? Take out your ಬಲಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ಸೇಮ್ ಟೀಚರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್. Take out your red textbook. Okay, now the student knows red textbook. And the teacher then asks a question, "Which textbook will you take out?" And the students say, "The red one." It's an easy question for the students. So this is using teacher talk effectively. And it enhances the quality of the learning because immediately they learn something, they understand something, and therefore they can do it. ಸುಲಭವಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಎರಡನೇ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ. ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಎಡಭಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಿವ್ ಯುವರ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ನರ್ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಟೀಚರ್ ಸೇಸ್. ಅವರು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಗಿವ್ ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. They don't know the meaning of the word feedback. So if you remember in the opening slide, we said teacher talk is everything that enhances the quality of the learning through context, tone and vocabulary. I told you about tone, open the door, ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಥರನೇ vocabulary. Let's see how teacher talk can be used effectively to change the vocabulary and enhance the learning. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ, feedback. Instead of that, the teacher says, tell your partner what they did well, and they can other simplify ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, what they did well and what they can improve. ಅದು did well, improve ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ. Teacher's instructions are, and then she asks by saying, will you tell them will you only tell them the things that they need to improve? The students immediately understand. So immediately it affects the quality of the learning. If you remember in the first slide, we said teacher talk is something that affects quality of learning. So I'm reinforcing or repeating that. And immediately the student says, no, we will also share what they did well. So the students have understood and it has affected the learning. So we've looked at how to use it to check our understanding. Here, on the example, warm-up chat. Warm-up chat andre ಏನು? So first let's define what a warm-up chat is. When you start the class, straight away you can't start with the subject. So you start by preparing the students for the lesson. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ವಾರ್ಮ್ ಅಪ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So that is called a warm-up chat. Now, in a warm-up chat, let's look at an example. Here is a teacher giving instructions. For that warm-up chat, the teacher first says, students, listen to the instructions. Next step, take a piece of paper. Next step, write down your short answer to these questions. What game do you find interesting? What game do you find boring? And then the teacher says, now take 5 minutes and talk to your partner and share why you found X game interesting and why you found Y game boring. So this is a simple topic, it's a simple instruction, but if you noticed, it's important to give instructions when you give this is also teacher talk. Remember, everything in the context is teacher talk. The teacher is giving instructions step by step. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ they will all misunderstand the instructions. So step by step to make it effective. And to make it effective, the teacher also does something else. So class level prakara, she changes the words. She says, okay, find interesting padlo. She says, like, what game did you or do you like? And what game do you find or didn't you like? Or what game do you not like? So she asked that question. Why does she ask that question? To make it simpler for students, to affect the quality of the learning. So this is a very simple example of using a warm-up chat to make teacher talk effective in the classroom. You can change the words, as I said. Vocabulary also is a part of teacher talk, how you change it. That depends completely on the teacher, not giving the same instructions. So now Titiksha will show you another example. Nim sandarbhanayinda, she will show you another, Nim classroom sandarbhanayinda, she will show you another example.
Thank you, Arun. This current example has been taken from the Karnataka State Board Class 7 English as Second Language textbook. In this activity, the teacher wants the students to talk about a sensitive topic or that is of environment, and therefore she wants them to do a quick green survey in the classroom. So for them to do this, the teacher gives these simple instructions. Teacher says, step 1, students, today we will take part in a green survey. Step 2, take a piece of paper. Step 3, write down these questions. Question A, do you reuse old newspapers? Question B, do you plant trees in your neighborhood or at school? Question C, do you ask your friends not to use plastic bags? Once the students have finished writing these questions, then the teacher gives the next instruction. Step 4, now take 5 minutes and write 2 more questions. Step 5, ask your questions to your partner and write down their answers. This is an interesting activity that the teacher can use in her classroom or in their classroom if they want to introduce the students to the topic of environment. But let's say that the chapter that the teacher is about to conduct in the class is on sports or is on food. Then the teacher only needs to change the questions and still the students can conduct the survey. So, for example, the questions can be, do you enjoy eating dosa? Do you not like to cook food? So on and so forth. Similarly, by making the students in charge of writing their own 2 questions and then asking all the 5 questions to their partner or to their group, the teacher is encouraging interaction in the classroom. remember, teachers can use this opportunity to generate lot of discussion in the classroom. This makes your students feel confident because they are speaking not directly to you, but to each other. So this way, through such activities, teachers can integrate both the speaking and listening skills for the students. And like Arun mentioned, you can simplify the questions depending on the level of your students in the class. But Arun, do we have any other tips and suggestions for our lovely teachers today?
Yes, we do. Plenty of tips and suggestions. In fact, you've already given one without telling them. Perhaps I should remind them about it. So if you noticed, when Titiksha was reading out the instructions, first thing is step by step. That is very important. ಅದು ತುಂಬ ಮುಖ್ಯ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ the step by step approach helps a student understand the question and reading it slowly. If we read all the instructions at once or give all the instructions at once, which sometimes happens in classes, students will not understand what they, and then you might have to repeat the questions. So repeating instructions or saying them one by one, step by step. You also mentioned, Titiksha, that you said, do you use? Idakke now we say personalization. Do you? Not out of their context. So they immediately understand. Okay, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದಾಗಿರೋದು, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ they can understand because it is personal to them. So asking a question like do you, instead of saying are your old newspapers reused, instead of a very general question. So those are some good tips, giving them time, also encouraging them to talk to each other. Ask your partner. Simple instruction which the teacher has to give. They will participate in groups and pairs, which is a real life situation, which makes language learning effective. So let's look at some more tips and suggestions. So here is, we're going to look at some problems from a classroom, and for this Sangeeta is going to be played by the part of Titiksha, and she's going to ask me some questions. These are typical problems. It might be in your context also, so please follow this very carefully. Yes, Sangeeta, how can I help you?
Arun, my students do not understand the instructions that I give in English. How can I support my students in understanding and following my English instructions?
Thank you very much, Titiksha. This is a very common context and a very common problem or a frequent problem that teachers have. Not understanding instructions in English, giving instructions in English, and supporting students through English instructions. So what can be done? So there is a simple thing. So in our native languages also we do it, but we will extend that. Research shows that using both, don't be scared to use, and please use your own native language, Kannada. You'll see an example here. Bagalna tegiri. Simple instruction. Bagal tegiri. Bagal tegiri. Adu open the door. Jotege open the door. Bagal tegiri, open the door. Bagal tegiri, open the door. Adu now pade pade ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಬೈ ರಿಪೀಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಸೇ ಡೂ ಯು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ದ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ರೂಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಬೈ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್ ದ ಟೂ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಸೊ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ phrases like these which are called basic instruction chunks. Not just one word, open the door ಅಂದರೆ 2-3 words ಇದೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ, ಬಾಗಲ್ ತೆಗೀರಿ. So the whole chunk they will learn like that. And repeat these instructions. ಅದೇ ಪದೇ ಪದೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅವರಿಗೆ. Repeat the instructions as many times as possible because they will through repetition understand. You don't even have to ask them what is the meaning, did you understand the meaning, adalla you don't have to ask. So these basic instruction chunks are very useful in a classroom, and we will look at them, and please, as I said, use Kannada. As you've probably noticed right through my presentation also, I've been using a little bit of Kannada and a little bit of English, especially on the difficult words. Yella translate madangilla, but only the difficult ones or the simple ones. Now hokta you can change the words also. We will show you some examples. So let's look at some basic instruction chunks. So here is an example. Open the textbook. Simple sentence. So there is a word that has been underlined there. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬದಲು there are some word suggestions below that. Blue box ನಲ್ಲಿ word suggestions ಇದೆ, workbook ಇದೆ, notebook ಇದೆ, windows, door, window ಇದೆ. So instead of saying open the, and now I'll do an example now with Titiksha and show you how it can be used in the classroom. So Titiksha, open the textbook. Now Titiksha, can you try open the, use one of the words, Titiksha.
Open the notebook.
Very good. Let's try one more example, Titiksha. Open the
Window.
Very good. So now Titiksha is using one more word, and it is her word. I've started the sentence, but we've used that basic instruction chunk and she has completed the sentence. Let's look at another example. Here now we've increased the level of difficulty. One word in the two words agide. Iga first one word ittu, mele iga two words ide. Close your lunch boxes. So Titiksha, close your, can you give me one more example?
Close your bags.
And one more with two words below that, Titiksha, close your
Textbooks.
Okay, so we've increased it to compound words. Now we can increase. Ade hogta hogta now idu you can replace the words as the lesson goes on. So slowly ನೀವು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ನೀವು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ. Teacher talk, to make it effective, you must make your teacher talk less and less and less. So we'll show you an example of that. So look at the third, ಮೂರನೇ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ share your answers with your partner. There are two words, answers and partner. Now I'm going to have Titiksha as a student. Titiksha, share your
Ideas.
with your
Group.
Very good, Titiksha. One more example, share your
Story.
with your
Team.
Very good, Titiksha. Very good. So now we've seen some examples of basic instruction chunks and how they can work. And we're going to now show you yet another problem in the classroom. And yet another example of a little bit of chunking of language. So Titiksha, what is the problem? What problem can I help you with now?
Arun, my students can't still understand some basic words in English that they see often or they use often in their classroom. Can you help me with that?
Yes, Titiksha, good question. So you say your students can't understand and you want some support. So teacher talk doesn't only mean the spoken English of the teacher. Remember, everything around the classroom can also support the student. That is also those are also examples of teacher talk. For example, in the previous slide we said Bagalna Tikiri. You can use that word. The word door might be new to them. So all you have to do is label items in English. Label ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಒಂದು ಇದು ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ ಇದೆ ಸೈಡ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಡೋರ್, ಕ್ಯಾಲೆಂಡರ್, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಲೇಬಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು ಇದರ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. You can stick picture charts in your classroom related to the topic, whatever topic. If your topic is food, you can label items of food. If your topic is green, as she said in the lesson about greenery and about the environment, you can label items around the classroom or picture charts around the classroom in English so that they at least know the words, and just by looking, sight vocabulary will help them. So don't assume that teacher talk is only speaking in English. It's also a little bit of English supplied through the sides, if I may say that. Right. So this will help students understand instructions in class.
Thanks,
But-
Arun. Do we have some more teachers who have shared their other concerns with us?
Yes, we have Rehman sir, who's now wants to know, how can I use my teacher talk to make my classrooms more engaging and effective? That's a big problem. I find that too.
Thanks for sharing that concern with us, Arun. The first thing we would like to share with our lovely teachers is that British Council has several free resources. You can scan the QR code that you see on your screen right now, and you will be able to access some of them. These will help you in managing teacher talk in your classroom. But coming back to Rahman sir's problem of how he can make, his lessons more interesting and effective in the classroom, I want to give him these suggestions, Arun. Let's look at suggestion 1. He can integrate the different skills into the lessons that he's about to teach. For example, let's look at this interesting guessing game. In this activity, the teacher will give these 3 simple instructions. Step 1, I will describe a festival without revealing its name. Step 2, you need to guess the name of the festival from my description. Step 3, now in your groups, take turns and describe a festival and ask others to guess the name. So Arun, should we do a demo of this activity?
Yes, really good idea. Really good idea.
All right. So I'll play the role of Shelja ma'am and Arun here will do the role of students. So, students, it is a national holiday on this day.
Ma'am, I think Gandhi Jayanti, ma'am, Gandhi Jayanti.
Our tricolor is hoisted.
Oh, tricolor. Republic Day, ma'am. Republic Day.
Everyone celebrates by singing the national anthem and other patriotic songs.
Ma'am, Republic Day, ma'am. Definitely. Definite, ma'am, Republic Day.
We became an independent country on this day.
Oh, Independence Day, ma'am. Independence.
Bingo. So this is one way where the teachers can just describe the festival but let the students listen and speak the answers. And once the teacher has demonstrated one round of this activity, then she can request the students to take over the game. Let's look at another suggestion for Rahman sir. He can use real life materials and cross-curricular reference in his classroom. So for example, he can use different pictures to integrate listening and speaking in his classroom. Now this is another picture that we have Arun taken from the textbooks, the NCERT textbook, English textbook called Marigold Text for grade 2. And in this activity, the students will look at the picture and then the teacher will give these simple instructions. Step 1, look at this picture. Step 2, write the name of the animals in your language and in English. Step 3, describe the picture to your partner. And step 4, describe the picture to the group behind you. Now again, in this activity, the teacher will encourage the students to talk to each other, but at the same time give them support. So the teacher can do this by simplifying some questions or maybe giving them some support sentences like the rabbits are holding dash, so that the students can guess what needs to come in this gap and they can fill it and then they can use this to share their story. The rabbits are running away from the dash. The rabbits are helped by a smart dash. Now, Arun, is there any other way for senior classes, let's say, that the teacher can make their class interesting and engaging?
Thank you, Titiksha. Good question. You were talking earlier about using real life materials. Textbook inda. Nam textbook ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ಹೇಗಿದು how do we use teacher talk effectively in that? ಅದು ನಾನೀಗ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. Let's look at a picture. You will see a picture on the right. ಇದು you can replace it with any picture from your textbook. But you must remember these simple steps to make teacher talk effective. ಅದು ಒಂದು 5 magic words ಇದೆ. 4 or 5 magic words ಇದೆ. First, of course, is the instruction. Look at this picture. ಇದು ಯಾವ ಲೆಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. ಅದು ಫುಡ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇರಲಿ, ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇರಲಿ, ಯಾವ ಲೆಸನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Look at this picture. 5 words, magic, 3 or 4 magic words. ಅದು ಯಾವುದದು? W, ಎಲ್ಲ W. Who, where, what, why. ವೆನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಯಾವ ಲೆಸನಲ್ಲೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. if you remember in the first thing, he said, "How was your weekend?" And he said, "It was great," in the first slide that we saw. Simple activity, all you have to say is why. If you say that, even if the student doesn't know how to answer, at least ಅವನು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ in English, in his head. At least he will think, he will start thinking. Even that is the development of English. Even if he doesn't answer, no problem. But you can use it effectively in a picture like this. So for example, in this picture, we have simple questions all starting with WH. Who is cooking? Where is the TV? ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನೀವು ಕೇಳಬೇಕು. Where? Who is cooking? Where is the TV? What is the small boy doing? And leave the rest to, all you remember is those four or five WH questions. Why is the girl reducing the TV volume? Or why is the girl cooking? You can change. Topic prakara, you can change. So these are very good questions to remember. Remember why, what, when, where. It's a good technique to remember in all your lessons. ಯಾವ lesson ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. So ಆ ಥರನೇ we will she will also, Titiksha will now has a question and something else to say.
Yes. I think we can also use such pictures in our classroom to create awareness about social issues, isn't it, Arun?
That's right. You can change it to any level. So if you're talking about, for example, this is a picture talking about who is cooking. You can just ask, why is there a problem of poverty in this country? If it's a higher level. ಅದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ರೂಮ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನೀವು ಯಾವ ವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋ ಅದು whatever method you use, you can use the same questions, but you can change the topic to suit any level. Why is there poverty? Where is it most? ಆ ಥರ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾವ ಲೆವೆಲಲ್ಲೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. So Titiksha will now take over on yet another way of introducing teacher talk.
So another way we can help Rehman sir, Arun, is by suggesting this solution to him. He can transfer some of his teaching onto the flip model. A flip model is when a traditional teaching approach is changed by requesting or encouraging the students to actively look at the materials in advance before they come to the classroom. So for example, the teacher can share, let's say, a picture, a video with the students in advance and ask them to watch the video or look at the picture, listen to the words and phrases if it's a video, and then the student can practice saying those words and phrases on their own at their home. And once they have done that in the classroom next day, they can practice it with their friends. To show you how this can also be done through a very interesting video clip, let's look at a very small video.
Today, we'll talk about different jobs. Do you know how to say these words in English? Repeat after me. Doctor, driver, engineer, farmer, health worker or nurse, office clerk, police officer, shopkeeper, tailor, teacher.
What would you like to be when you're older?
I'd like to be a shopkeeper.
What about you? What would you like to be?
I don't know. I'd like to be a teacher.
Now, let's practice. Ask, what would you like to be when you are older?
Video can be used by the teachers. By sharing these videos in advance, you can ask your students to practice these words, these sentences, these questions at home. And then when they come to the classroom, they can do group discussions with each other. You can access these videos again on our free resource page called Learn English with Friends video page. You can see the QR code for the same on your screen right now. So you can scan that and you can download these videos. They're free to use and they're available on YouTube channel as well. Now, Arun, do we have any other concerns from any other teacher?
Yes, there's one last concern. Most students in my class says one teacher use their home language, the language they speak at home, which is typically Kannada. How can I use their language in my teacher talk to develop their English communication skills? That's a very good question. So remember, you don't have to develop their English skills. You don't have to speak everything in English. It's not necessary. Research has shown that multilingualism, which means both languages, ಎರಡು ಕನ್ನಡ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯೂಸ್, ಅದು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ರೀಡಿಂಗು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಲಿಸ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು ಅವರಿಗೆ. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಲಿಸ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಅಲಾಂಗ್, ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಬಟ್ ಒಂದು ಮಾತ್ರ ಮುಖ್ಯ ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಸೆಟ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್. That's when it becomes effective. That's called multilingual teacher talk. Multilingual, you can extend that to reading material, you can extend that to listening material. You don't have the dictionary, you don't have to use. In a classroom, all the students have to do is write the Kannada word and write the English word. That's a multilingual. That's the simplest form of a dictionary. You don't have to take big Oxford dictionary. ಅದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಮಲ್ಟಿಲಿಂಗ್ವಲ್ ಡಿಕ್ಷನರಿ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಂಪಲ್. ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರೈಟ್ ಅ ವರ್ಡ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರೈಟ್ ಅ ವರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್, ದೇ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರೈಟ್ ದ ಕನ್ನಡ ವರ್ಡ್, ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. Another simple thing they can do as soon as they come into the classroom in the morning, the students have multiple languages. So you can use the Kannada word namaskara, you can use hello. They can use their own language, but make sure, as always, they use English also together. It can be hello, it can be goodbye, bye-bye. Simple words. You don't have to start with any magical words or any big words, but make a start in multilingualism, which research has proven is very good for the learning of other languages. So too to English. You will see a QR code on that slide. And on that QR code, you can learn more about multilingualism. It's a British Council multilingualism resource. So let's summarize now what we've looked at today. In the opening slides, we looked at teachers giving praise. It's an excellent example of teacher talk, when we encourage and motivate our students. Well done. Good job. Excellent. So you can keep changing those words so that students learn from those words, and teacher talk enhances the quality of learning. As we've spoken right through this, using a combination of English and Kannada. Idralli the most important thing, bala mukhya idu, is to find all kinds of opportunities. Don't just wait to say, okay, that lesson, I'm going to wait for it to translate in English. So don't do that. Adanna ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. Every little opportunity, open the door, bagalna tekiri, bring my lunch, or open the book. ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಇದರಲ್ಲೂ every opportunity you can keep using Kannada and English, but use it in a planned and structured way. Repeat in different sentences. Open the door, open the window in different contexts, so that you can say, you can add a simple word. You can say, next lesson ನಲ್ಲಿ please open the door, could you please open the door. ಅದು increase ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಅವರು ಕಲಿತಾರೆ ಅದರಿಂದ. So there are more ways to summarize, which she will now take you through.
Thanks, Arun.
So another interesting thing that we shared with you today is that teacher talk does not always only include the talking aspect that happens in the classroom. Even things like labels that the teachers post at different places can help you support your students. Remember, the aim is for us to encourage our students to use English as much and as often as possible. So to do that, you can label different objects in your classroom, in your language and in English. That way, like Arun said, they will see both the objects, the languages together for a particular object, and they will pick up the word. Similarly, we shared with you that if you want your students to overcome their hesitation of using English in the classroom, one very good way of doing that is to conduct activities that encourage collaboration and peer interaction. The more opportunities you give for students to talk to each other or to talk in groups, the more confident they will feel when it comes to speaking in English. You can also always find level and age appropriate activities or challenges which actually help your students pick up the necessary word or vocabulary or grammar structure. And once you find that the students feel comfortable or are confident at that level, you can increase the level slowly. So that's one. And the last one, of course, we have is that it's always a good idea whatever activity you want the students to do in the classroom, and then let your students take the lead on that activity. Arun, can I request you to also translate this into Kannada maybe for our audience?
Okay, so as we said earlier, label school signages, door, kidiki, window. So you can put those labels in the classroom. Collaboration and peer interaction. So they can work together. ಅವರು ಜೊತೆಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ರೂಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಪೇರ್, ದೇ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಇನ್ ಪೇರ್ಸ್, ದೇ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಇನ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್. ಏಜ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿ ಶೋಡ್ ಯು ಸಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್. Who is cooking? That is lower level. Why is this person poor? That's slightly higher level. ಏಜ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನೀವು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ರೂಮ್. So make sure that that your questions are all age appropriate, your questions and your materials. And of course, always demonstrate your activities first. First, ನೀವು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅವರು then you let them do the activity. Okay, first ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ ಮೇಲೆನೆ ಅವರು they will understand. ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. So we're now going to talk about some resources to help you. And Diksha, what are some resources that can help us?
Absolutely, Arun. We have a range of free resources for our lovely audience. We have a Teacher Connects webinar YouTube playlist. It is a playlist where all the webinars that British Council has hosted over the last several years, they're available there. They just need to go on this particular link and they can access those webinars. And these webinars are again free and they will help the teachers with any concern that they have in their classroom. For example, if they want to find ways to encourage their students to speak more in English, they can find a webinar on that as well. Along with that, we used some video today in our presentation, which was from this source, which is called Learn English with Friends. Now, these are again, fabulous videos, free of cost, of course, 30 short videos that cover a range of general English topics, Arun. So the teachers can also download these videos whenever they want from the YouTube playlist again. And along with that, we also have a Teaching English Radio India channel. It is a series of 15 short 15-minute audio programs that gives teachers advice, also, for instance, on training for teachers of English who are working in schools in India and who have, let's say, large classrooms and have few resources. Apart from that, are there any other resources, Arun?
Yes, we have a whole lot of films for teachers, for teacher development. So we have teacher development films shot in various parts of the country, typically in contexts that are similar to yours. And there is a YouTube link which which you now see on your screen, which you can use. These are very similar contexts to yours, so please go ahead and watch them. There is a workbook to accompany these videos, which has got 3 sections in it: a before watch, as you watch, and after you watch. And the link is on the slide. There is a series of films. There are a series of films on the primary classroom, or sort in the primary classroom, which you will also find quite useful in your context. Again, the links are there. These will show you a lot of games, activities, songs, which you can use to complement your textbook. Again, there is a self-access booklet with answer keys to this, and so that's a lot of resources. Titiksha, I think there are some more resources we have.
Yes, I'm sure as teachers, all of you are interested in attending some international or global webinars as well with British Council. For that, you can log on to teachenglish.india@britishcouncil.org. These webinars will help you with your continuing professional development. And you can also subscribe to our Teacher Connect newsletter, where you will get information on what's happening event-wise in British Council, but it will also give you some idea of things that you can apply in your classroom. With that, we will share these references with you as well. They will be available for you on the PPT. And I think with that, Arun, we come to the Q&A section. I'm sure the teachers are very interested in asking us questions, so let's open the floor to them.
Thank you very much, Diksha. ಸೊ ಏನಾದರೂ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಂಗಿದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. We will answer both in English and in Kannada, so no problem. Please ask whenever if you have any questions. We welcome questions from you, and the floor is now open. Titiksha and I will answer your questions. Very happy to answer your questions. But first of all, we would also like to say thank you. We will say that again at the end, but thank you so far for listening to us.
ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರೇ, ಇಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಮೊದಲನೇ ದಿವಸದ ವೆಬಿನಾರನ್ನು ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ವೆಬಿನಾರಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ ಇಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಂಥ ಸದಸ್ಯರುಗಳು ತಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಟೀಚರ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೇಗಿರಬೇಕು, ಹೌ ಟು ಟೀಚ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಡೂ ದ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ಸ್, ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿಚಾರಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ತಮಗೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ರೆ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ಈ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಇವಾಗ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ರಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಹೇಗನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ? ಮೊದಲನೇ ದಿವಸ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಹೀಗೆ ಇದು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಮುಂದೆ. ಆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅನಿಸಿದಂಥ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ತಾವು. ಫೀಡ್ಬ್ಯಾಕ್.
So as we're waiting for questions to come.
ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿ. ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಿಂದ, BRC ಸೆಂಟರ್ಗಳಿಂದ, ಶಾಲೆಗಳಿಂದ.
So Arun, I'm sure you have some more questions on behalf of our teachers. Maybe you can ask.
Yes, how can I use teacher talk to help my students with vocabulary? My students are really struggling. See, ma'am, interest is appearing in our head, but lack of vocabulary. You can't speak.
That's a very interesting question, Arun. And like you said, many teachers face this challenge in their classroom. I think one important thing to remember when we are teaching our students vocabulary, Arun, is to make sure that they learn vocabulary in a context. So for example, if the theme of your lesson is on environment, then bring out all the words that are related to that theme. That way the students can remember the vocabulary for a long time.
Thank you. Diksha, I think we now have a question from one of the teachers.
ಕೇಳಿ. ಹಲೋ, ಮಾತನಾಡಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Madam, we are watching webinar right now. Teacher talk.
ಓಕೆ.
Hello. Hello, ma'am.
ಹಲೋ, ಟೆಲ್ ಮಿ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, we are calling from Chikmagalur district. Hello.
ಹಲೋ.
Madam, we are calling from Chikmagalur district.
ಓಕೆ.
Chikmagalur taluk.
ಹಾಂ,
My question is, my students will understand my instruction in English, but they cannot repeat in language.
Okay.
How to do? What is the suggestion for this?
Very good question. Thank you very much for your question. So the question, if I've understood it correctly, how can they understand your instruction, but they can't repeat your language, they can't use English, if I've understood that question correctly. So as I said, yes. So as we go back to the earlier slide about basic instruction chunks. So open the door. It can be a simple instruction.
Hello, ma'am.
ಹಲೋ.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can I ask you a question?
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ತಮಗೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ.
No, sir. English disturbance ಅಂತ ಇದೆ.
ನೀವು ಟಿವಿಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಮೇಡಮ್.
Yes, ma'am. We are in outside only.
ಓಕೆ, ಓಕೆ.
Yes. So answering that question, basic instruction chunks. Not only should you give the instruction, I think mechanically repeating something is a good way to start. I remember when I learned Kannada, I've learned Kannada on the streets. I haven't learned it in a formal classroom. Just by listening and repeating, I think many of us learn languages that way. Listening and repeating. So the teacher talk is important, the tone. If you say it in the correct tone, and just ask the student to repeat.
Yes.
That's a good enough step.
Yes.
What do you think, Titiksha?
I agree with you, Arun. Teachers can also do some quick drill activities in the class. Like Arun said, you can repeat the same instruction, open the door, and encourage your students to repeat it after you. So that way you drill the language, the pronunciation, as well as the vocabulary and the structure that you want them to use.
I hope that has answered your question. Do you have other questions?
Can I just? What we got to provide them various opportunities to express themselves. So many a times, if you're just asking the rote question, and you expect the same answer, you will not receive. You should create space for children to express in their own, contextually relevant, and then accept the response and then make corrections if required. So immersion is the way. Without practice, without reinforcement, you will not be able to help children respond. Very well said, ma'am. We agree with you. ಒಂದು ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ, ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳುವಾಗ ಟಿವಿಯಿಂದ ದೂರ ನಿಂತು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿ. See, a very clear instruction. Please move away from the television and ask your questions.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
ಹೇಳಿ.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹೇಳಿ.
ಮಾತನಾಡಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Hello, ma'am. ನಮಸ್ತೆ.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ನಾನು ಗುಬ್ಬಿ TRC ಇಂದ.
ಹೇಳಿ ಮಾ. ಮಾತನಾಡಿ.
Hello.
ಕೇಳಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ, ನಾನು ಗುಬ್ಬಿ TRC ಇಂದ ಸಿಂಧು ಅಂತ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು.
ಹೇಳಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್, ನಾವು ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೊತೆ ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಕನ್ನಡ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದಾ?
Of course, ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು.
That's a good question. I've answered it straight away.
ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾವು ಬೈಲಿಂಗ್ವಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ನ ಒಂದೇ ಸರಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರವಾಗಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಬೈಲಿಂಗ್ವಲ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ನಾವು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ಕಲಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೋದಾಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಸಪೋರ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಬಳಸ್ಬೋದು. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಗೆ ಪ್ರಥಮ ಆದ್ಯತೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣ ಭಾಷೆಯಿಂದ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಭಾಷೆನಲ್ಲ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೋದಲ್ವಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್?
ಖಂಡಿತ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆ ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣ ಭಾಷೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಗು ಯಾವ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಮಾತಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಗು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಒಂದೇ ಸರಿ ಅವರು ಆಂಗ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆಗೆ ಕಲೀಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ತಾವು ಹೇಳಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು.
ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆಯಾಗಿ ಈ ದಿನದ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮೂಡಿ ಬಂತು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಂಭಾಷಣೆ, ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಸಂಭಾಷಣೆಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ಸರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಇಬ್ರು ಸಹ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಟ್ರು. ತುಂಬಾ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ಹಲೋ
ಮಾತಾಡಿ.
ಗುಡ್ ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. Madam, I am from Shimoga district, Sagar Taluk. My question is, hello?
ಹೇಳಿ ಮಾ.
And to school, students coming from first generation learners, where the influence of the mother tongue is more. How can we make them to learn English in more effective way? And another problem is the effect of other subjects, where we teach English and other subjects influence is disturbing more.
Okay, so thank you very much for your question. Other subjects influence, can I just ask, what do you mean by other subjects influences more? Can I just ask the question just from my understanding so that I may answer your question properly?
Other subjects or other languages, madam?
No, the children are from the first generation. They are the first generation learners.
Okay.
They have their own mother tongue influence and influence of various other factors. And how do we address them and help them pick up language?
Okay, so that's a good question. They have other influences. Languages influence. So if you notice, he showed you a slide on reading. They have other languages, no problem. All of us speak other languages. English is one of the languages. It's an important language, just like other languages are. If they can learn English, it doesn't matter if they speak other languages. Let them also learn English alongside. Where it influences me are areas like pronunciation. Maybe it influences the pronunciation and the accent. But you don't have to worry that somebody has an accent. Everybody has an accent. I have an accent. Everybody in this world has an accent. But you don't have to worry about that. You just have to be clear enough in English to speak. And that is where your teacher taught something being effective. If you're going, open the door, if you're going to say it with an accent like that, that is not going to be effective. But if you say, open the door, please, then it is going to be effective. And that's where you can help the learner with overcome any sort of influence on that. That's one idea.
Sure. So like Arun said, ma'am, we want to encourage the students to speak in English, but at the same time we also respect and value their home languages that they come from or they use at their home. So one easy way of doing that is that we encourage the usage of multilingualism in the classroom. For example, like we did translate between different languages for different purposes. So for example, if it is an instruction that we need to give to students that they need to understand immediately, that can be given to them in their home language so that they start doing that activity. Let's say for that, once they have started doing the activity, then the remaining instructions or the remaining activity can be done in English as well. So, we can mix the languages at various stages in which you are even introducing the activity. You can also, mix words and expressions from different languages in the same sentence. That's another interesting way that your students will value their own language, but at the same time don't pick up the words from English language. And another example I think that I can think on top of my mind right now is maybe using home language in one part of the activity and the school language in another part, like I said. So that can be done as well. I hope that answered your question, ma'am.
ಹೇಳಿ.
I think in continuation of what Titisha said, a great national, Gnanapita awardee, Professor U.R. Anantmurthy, he constantly used to reiterate, ಅವ್ರೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಂದ್ರೆ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕೊಳದಲ್ಲಿ ಈಜಾಡ್ತಾ ಮಗು ತನ್ನ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಆನಂದಿಸುತ್ತೋ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಆಂಗ್ಲ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಮಗು ಹಾಡಿ ನಲಿಯೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಆ ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಸರವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ. So it's all again how much of resources that we provide, how resourceful we are in order to carry out the teacher talk and then help children develop the confidence that matters. So with that sort of an effort in the classroom interaction, classroom language, teacher talk is the most important aspect where children will pick up language. And then they themselves immerse. Otherwise, it's just not the lecture method or whatever the rote practices that conventionally we have in our classrooms that will definitely not help much. So we need to rethink, revisit on how we are practicing the teaching learning process in the classroom and bring about the change, which really helps every single child acquire language. Any other questions?
Okay. Once again, on behalf of British Council and the APRT, we would like to thank our lovely audience for being with us today, for your amazing questions. And I hope that this webinar will be of some use to you in your classroom. And we would love to hear more from you. So we would love to receive your feedback as well on it. Thank you so much.
ಓಕೆ. ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕ ವರ್ಗದವರೇ, ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಿಂದ, ರಾಜ್ಯದಾದ್ಯಂತ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಿಂದ BRC ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ, ಈ ದಿನ ಸ್ವೀಕೃತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿ ವರ್ಗದವರು, ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರು ಹಾಗೂ ಇತರೆ ಶಾಲೆಗಳಿಂದನೂ ಕೂಡ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಿಗೆ. ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಿಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಕೌನ್ಸಿಲ್ನಿಂದ ಆಗಮಿಸಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಇಬ್ಬರು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಕೂಡ, ತಿತಿಕ್ಷಾ ಅಂಡ್ ಅರುಣ್ ಸರ್, ಇವರಿಬ್ಬರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿಗಳಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಪದ್ಮಶ್ರೀ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇದ್ದು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದರೆ, ತಮ್ಮ ಸಲಹೆ ಸೂಚನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರಿಗೆ ನೀಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿವಸ ಮೊದಲನೇ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಇವತ್ತು ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ. ಮುಂದೆ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ನ ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕೂಡ ಆ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವೀಕೃತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡುವ ಮೂಲಕ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ DSCRTಯ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು, ಸಹ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು, ಉಪನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಮುಕ್ತಾಯಗೊಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಕನ್ವೆ ಆಗೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಕೂಡ
Matte, I think you can even have activities, which we can pass it on.